Mr. Beacon podcast is sponsored by Wiliot, scaling IoT with battery-free Bluetooth.
Welcome to the Mr. Beacon podcast. This week we're in Finland, we're Helsinki. I'm with Bob Grimm, who is one of the key members of the technology team at NGK Ceramics, who make the ceramics that go into the tailpipes in cars. Bob's just come off stage, or he came off stage day before yesterday at the Quuppa Conference, talking about NGK's experience pioneering the deployment of an angle of arrival RTLS system. And so we're going to talk about that now. So Bob, thanks very much for joining us on the show.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I think what you guys have done is really, really interesting. So tell us a little bit about NGK to start off with, and then I'd love to explore why NGK decided it would be a good idea to deploy an RTLS, and what it was, and basically what happened, how it worked out.
Okay, absolutely.
We'll start off with NGK.
Yeah, NGK turns 100 years old as a global company, headquartered in Japan. North American operations started about just over 30 years ago in 1988, making again the insides through catalytic converters. Relatively unknown industry when you think about it, because as one of my members of my team and partner in our team says, is we make the piece of a part of a finished product in a car. So in the large picture of it, how eventful is that? But we're really good at it. We're only one of two providers globally that make the product. And how we first started down the RTLS path, back in 2013, we put in rack systems in the facility. It actually preceded my employment there. I started with the company in 2014. But they put the rack system in to inventory automation, replace all the forklifts driving around the plant. And
these rack systems are not, this is not just shelving, this is an automated computerized system with its own inventory and the like, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have automatic ground vehicles that actually deliver the product from the end of the production line over to the storage. It tracks it when it goes into their storage rack, and when it's retrieved from the storage rack, that's all tracked. So it was great for inventory control when our production capacity and our production throughput was able to hold everything within the rack system. Mm-hmm. What we encountered shortly after installing it, because as with any company, from the time you get the budget from concept and you actually deliver, especially something as complex as an automatic delivery system, mm-hmm. where you have to cut in the concrete, install wiring, and do everything to get it installed, from the time you get the concept in place until you get it actually built and installed and are able to gain value from it, production capacities can change. Mm-hmm. So what ended up happening was our production was far exceeding the capacity of our racks. Mm-hmm. So what was happening on the floor was they were delivering product, measuring, putting squares on the floor, delivering product to those squares, dropping it off. Well, now you don't have any clear way on how to track that product on the floor. So what you end up doing is you end up having people walking around with a list.
So I should say, just pause for a little bit just to give some context. We are surrounded by what we think are Canadian geese, and we're actually sitting on a swing by a lake. So just some context. So back to the story, and just one step back. So NGK is a Japanese company. That's yes. Correct. And so yes. From my perspective, very well organized, structured, automated production processes, and you operate around Kaizen principles. Is that the
yes.
right way of expressing it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So this is kind of a philosophy of constant improvement, and my sense, and full disclosure, NGK were a client of mine when I was in the consulting business, and we worked together a little bit on this this project. But my sense is things were going, you operated a very tight ship, but there was a desire to track pallets, basically know where things were and get an extra level of inventory control. Is that
yeah, it was, well, yes, but it was also capacity. I mean, the plant's capacity had exceeded what the rack system was originally designed to hold. We had other square footage that didn't have rack coverage, but it was sitting in the similar areas. Our process is creating a product, firing the product in the kiln, as the name implies, ceramics, firing the product in the kiln, and then inspecting the product, packaging it up for shipment to the customer. What was ended up happening was they were storing and putting in product anywhere they could find place on the floor, and now you have people walking around looking to locate that product on the floor in the best possible way they can, which is give me a list of the products and let me, by identifying the product, over time, obviously, experience, expertise, you know what you're looking for, more or less, but now you have to go find a pallet in a sea of pallets. And that's where kind of the concept come about from my predecessor within the IT arena was, how can technology better help looking for locating a pallet? What if the pallet could tell me where it was? And that's when we started going down the path of looking for a solution, combing through multiple variety of solution, as you know from the very beginning. And there's a lot out there that will meet the needs, but every need is slightly different, and there are specifications in every need that one technology is not going to suit all of them.
Right, and so it seemed to me, when your manufacturing plant is massive. It's the size of several football pitches, so you had kind of a lot of space to cover. But these pallets, it seems, they look very similar, and they're very close together. So you're kind of finding a needle in a very large haystack. So how does that translate into accuracy? How accurate did this real-time location system need to be?
We needed it to be sub-meter, sub-3 feet was the goal. So we could track it down to a 3 foot by 3 foot section. That was a goal we were going into, ideally. Because we wanted to know, okay, is it the first pallet in the row, the second, the third, or the fourth? It would also help for us to come in from which angle we were going to come in to get the pallet and retrieve it from that area. And again, reduce the time it took to identify, locate, and obtain the pallet and deliver it to the next phase in the process.
Right. And, this is more than a red dot problem, isn't it? At the center of it is you need a very accurate red dot, but you've got these other business processes for the red dot to be integrated in. Can you describe a little bit about, without going into too much confidential detail, but how do you pair a red dot with the way the business looks at these pallets?
Well, I think first of all is, and if we can take a little step back further and talk about, we had to determine what truly did the business have a need to locate the red dot? How much effort was going in to find those dots on the map, so to speak, before we could look at even automating it? And was there really truly a need? And then how were we going to be able to find that need? And as we found out going down this path was, and any customer going down this path would be, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what's out there. We sometimes don't, as a customer, don't even know what our need is. We have an idea, but it doesn't mean that that's going to be the end result as we start walking down this path. And I think it's a matter of being open and understanding, and ultimately looking at, yes, we want to know where the red dot is, but then what else can we obtain from the value on that red dot? We know where it is right now. How did it get there? Where did it go from there, from beginning to the end of the process? And I think really, and we've jumped ahead a little bit now, but really the next steps are going to be, what kind of analytics can we get from looking at that dot on the map?
So it's not just finding the pallet in an instant of time. You're talking about tracing its journey.
Absolutely. We went into this looking for the pallet, but then realizing from an analytical perspective, and this is clearly going to be, we're not at this phase yet by any means. It's looking at going to that next phase, because that's truly where the value is going to be, is in the analytics of it all. And it falls right in line with the Kaizen mindset of, how can we streamline a process? Where does what are the miles within the plant that a product travels, or the feet, or the yards, or the meters, or whatever it may be within the facility. Because if you can reduce the amount of time in the facility, then you can obviously become more efficient, handle less inventory. You have better quality control measurements across your throughput through the facility.
And why do you care about the path of the pallet if it's a robot that's moving the pallet around?
Well, everything has a value associated to it, whether it's maintenance on the robot every time the wheels turn on a particular piece of equipment, whether it's a forklift, whether it's an automatic vehicle, whether it's a pallet jack. There's wear and tear occurs on those products. So the less you are turning a wheel, for lack of a better descriptor, on a manufacturing floor, on a concrete floor, the less maintenance you need to perform on that particular piece of equipment. Again, whether it's a pallet jack or a forklift. I mean, it's amazing to think that people, you may use a pallet jack in a warehouse. You never think about them wearing out until you walk past the dumpster and you see 4 or 5 pallet jacks sitting in the dumpster to be replaced because they've lifted pallets so many times. The wheels have worn off of them from being pulled across concrete floors. Forklifts have maintenance on their wheels. Automatic ground vehicles have maintenance that needs to be performed. So the least amount of wheel turns you can get, the less maintenance you can have to do on any particular piece of equipment.
So we'll take a step back and cover exactly what the system is in a minute, but we're into an interesting area. So it sounds like if you have a spaghetti diagram, a trace of where these thousands of pallets are moving, you have the opportunity to simplify, to optimize, to take a more direct path and save time and save maintenance on the equipment. Is that
Absolutely. Absolutely, that's clearly an opportunity. And then if you can further move analytics one step further, which is the future of analytics is when I can identify the path a product should take, and with the automatic vehicles, it can take that path, but what happens if it goes to a different location? That means, one, it's obviously not on the automatic vehicle to deliver it, or somebody programmed in to deliver it to the incorrect place than they should have identified it to be delivered to, or it's on a forklift or manually being moved for whatever reason, a part of the process caused it to be manually moved, and it is now moved outside of its normal realm. Well, if I can look at analytics and determine the frequency, we have a product that doesn't follow the expected path, then I can determine the impact. Is it worth me? Okay, I just need to inform somebody that the product went someplace it shouldn't have and send email notification they can look into the next day. Or if it's happening frequently enough, and it's happening enough, and I won't know that till we start doing the analytical aspect of it, that it may be worthwhile for me to actually notify the forklift driver of, hey, you're putting this part where this part needs to go over here. Something's misidentified it. Something's is misdirecting you, without coming out and saying you're being misdirected or you're putting it someplace where it doesn't belong. It's okay. This product normally doesn't follow this path. Are you sure this is where it belongs? And to put that safety check in, because again, the sooner I can either identify that it's outside the normal expectation or expected path, then I can have action based on that, and therefore either reduce the amount of time of even someone having to go look for it as a dot on a map, because I can now use analytics to determine that, hey, this dot doesn't belong in this area of the map. Let's move it where it belongs to. Or if you say no, for a particular reason it has to belong here, then now at least I've notified somebody that that pallet is sitting there. Maybe it's waiting for the next phase. Maybe it's pulled to the side for an extra quality assurance or an extra inspection step. Because again, part of the manufacturing process, you have variables that adjust or change, or customers' demands that maybe there is a reason it was put there. And there was a reason why it went outside those analytics. But until you start really analyzing those analytics, you don't know what you're going to find in them. And things may be running smoothly, and you see everything's running flawlessly, which is perfect. That's what you want to obviously see in any kind of a manufacturing facility.
So that's great. You have some real data to understand the exceptions, how often they're happening, and that can help just expedite a particular order for a customer, but it can also help you make the system better. So let's take that step back and just recap. So there was an RFP process. You looked at I think almost a dozen different vendors, all sorts of technologies, ultra-wideband technology, different kinds of Bluetooth based on signal strength, Bluetooth based on angle of arrival. Fast forward through that process, what did you end up choosing, and what does the system look like?
We ended up choosing the Quuppa system, and we did not realize going into it the value that the angle of arrival or the angle of departure really played into the dynamics of the system, again, until you really start looking at trying to locate that dot on the map, or better yet, seeing the map move in real time. One of the selling factors for us was the ability to put the tags on our ground vehicles and actually watch. It served two purposes. It allowed us to really do some quality of control to make sure that the virtual map matched the physical layout of the facility, and then as pallets were moving, we could see the accuracy of them moving, because by attaching one of the tags to the AGV system, we could actually stand on a balcony and look at a digital map in our hand and look down and actually see the product moving in real time below us as we're watching it move on the map. And that gave us the ability to actually get more pinpoint accuracy by seeing something move in real time. Am I looking at the map and seeing it roughly where it's supposed to be on the floor, or am I seeing it 3, 4, 5, 6 feet off? Well, if I'm seeing it 3, 4, 5, 6 feet off, I fine-tune the system a little bit better, tweak it a little bit more to get my accuracy down to where I want it to be. And it really gave the wow factor, too, of being able to show, hey, here's the dot moving, and look off the edge of the balcony, and look, there's where we expect it to be. So now you're actually delivering to the business and showing the business what the potential of this system is.
So just to recap the architecture, so you have battery-powered Bluetooth tags that are attached to, it's not exactly on the pallets, it's attached, what are these tags attached to?
Yeah, that was part of our selection process. Because through our manufacturing process, the product moves from pallet to pallet. Obviously, you cannot run a wooden pallet through a kiln, so you have to remove the product, load it, and then load it back to a pallet. So what we chose was to associate it to our travel ticket, which travel with a pallet from the beginning of the production cycle all the way to the inspection cycle. So we had to work through those dynamics. Whenever we first brought the initial pilot in, yes, it's great, this works, we see it. Okay, now how do we move from pilot to full production, where now you're involving hundreds of people in the process as opposed to just a handful that know all the details of the tags. And then what we actually ended up going with was we have a barcode on every one of our pallets. We had every one of our tags required to have a barcode on the back of them. So we went in an app of pairing and unpairing. So at the beginning of the process, again, growing pains going from production, we tried multiple ways. We ended up settling on attaching a small plastic bag sticker to the back of our travel ticket. At the beginning of the process, they scan the travel ticket, they scan the tag, slide the tag in, it is now attached to that travel ticket. It stays there throughout the whole process. And then once it reaches our inspection department, what happens is once it reaches the inspection department, that pallet's been inspected, it gets put into a bucket, so to speak, to be delivered back to the front. When it reaches that phase of the process, it is automatically unpaired. So it requires no human intervention to go in there and say, oh, let me unseparate this tag from this particular travel ticket. Automatically, the system knows, hey, I'm in this location, I've been inspected, let me prepare this tag to be reused, and then work out the logistics. How do we get those tags moved back to the beginning of the process, separated across our production line, so then they can reuse them and begin their travel through the facility all over again, attached to now a new product and new travel ticket for that particular point in time.
And so you've got a travel ticket, which is a document, you've got a Bluetooth tag, and they're attached together. What's the device that you use to read these QR? Is it a QR code? Or,
yeah, it's a QR code, and we tried different things throughout the process. We were looking at using phones and cameras, and the speed of reading was way too slow. We ended up settling on an actual barcode scanner that we had them at the beginning of the process. Fortunately, like I said, we did not need to have them at the end to separate them, but at the beginning, we put a barcode scanner at the beginning of each of our production lines, and the forming technician or the lead of the area will, whenever he prints out the travel tickets for that particular shift and that work, he will then take and scan and associate all those travel tickets.
Okay.
And it was well received by the shop floor. The technology was well received. I mean, we live in a technical age, so when you deliver a technical solution and you can get the business to get behind it, and it almost make it, dare you say, fun at work. But I mean, when you have technology and you see how it works and the value of it, and the competitive nature of people of, okay, how fast can I get these tags paired together, scanned, and prepared for production. And it's almost a competitive between the lines. I mean, I think it's a competitive nature that people have of, we can embrace this and do this. And also, too, it's cool, it's flashy, it shoots a red signal. I mean, that's all aspects of the world we live in today.
So system components, we've got the tags, we've got the documentation the tags are associated with, which rides along with the pallets as they go through the production process. You have locators in the ceiling. So talk a little bit about roughly how many there are. How much space, how big is this factory?
The factory, I think what we have covered is over, I want to say it's over 300,000 square feet. We focused on the lanes of travel when we were putting up our the locators, because that's where the product is going to be moving. We also tried to cover the rack systems the best that we can to gather the inventory moving in and out of a rack, so we could tell if they were actually moving into the rack or being removed from the rack system. And I'm trying to think, last count I want to say we have 88 locators throughout the facility.
And these things look like a little white frisbee, a little bit smaller than a frisbee. And how are they, can you talk a little bit about how they were located in the ceiling and kind of...
Well, I mean, it was an interesting thing growing through that process, because we have a very high ceiling, so we had to figure out how to get them at an approximate height. We could not, no matter how much we tried, we could not come up with a standard height and say, okay, every single one we're going to install at 21 feet. Because we, being a manufacturing facility, it's amazing if you look up into a ceiling how much stuff is suspended from the ceiling, installed in the ceiling. Plus our facility grew multiple times over multiple years, so you may have a wall that only comes down 10 feet from the ceiling, and it's been removed over the years on the floor level, but they didn't remove it all the way up. So we had to overcome those obstacles. We also have an extremely hot environment. We had to put them next to our kilns. Our pilot was actually done in the middle of August next to the kiln, so we had technicians up there in a lift going up 30 feet off the ground to install an antenna, only to come down soaking wet, covered in sweat from the heat, the kiln, the temperature outside and everything. So it was a learning process. All of these we have them PoE out of our switches.
So that's power over Ethernet?
Yes, power over Ethernet installed. The actual installation, logistics, all that, moving, adjusting, was a learning process for us, because unlike a office building, or unlike any, I hate to say, a cookie cut building, where okay, the floor's made out of concrete, the walls are made out of sheetrock. In a manufacturing facility, you have metal, steel, we have kilns, we have
robots
moving around, we have walls, we have all kind of metal, we have all kind of fans running to keep the place cool inside. I mean, there's something in your way everywhere you look. So every one we'd install where we thought it was going to go, try to get the system calibrated, maybe go up and have to move it, foot to the left, foot to the right. Other times we went looking at a normal pattern and say, okay, this would be a great place to put it. We look up and we go, well, there's no way we can hang it from the ceiling there, because there's a giant heater in the way, there's a giant fan in the way, there's something in the way. So it was all a slow process to get into, and then calibrating the system was key, because again, the dynamic of the system is it can be calibrated, you can adjust it, you can make it, and then you're getting it linked to a virtual map that we could then pair with the physical map was crucial for us.
Very good. And the metaphor that I liked that was sometimes referred to in this process was, it's like putting a street lamp up, and you're kind of looking at the cone that's illuminated there, and you want a little bit of overlap so there are no dark spots on the floor. And if you go up higher, then you have kind of the cone gets bigger. If you're lower, then you need more street lamps, because the radius is smaller. So there's a lot that you guys went through to do this, and I don't know how you did it, because it was just hot as blazes. I couldn't function in that environment. But okay, so we've got the tags, we've got the barcode readers, we've got the locators in the ceiling, and then there's like a server, right?
Yeah. All the data is collected. We, on the initial pilot, we just pushed everything up to the cloud and had it analyzed there, because again, we weren't sure what we were gonna. It was a proof of concept. We had to get something stood up, something to show the business. Now internally, what we've done is we do all the data collection internally, so it's on premise. And again, we haven't moved to the next phase of analytics. Right now, we're happy to see a series of blue dots displayed on the map, or whenever the production floor workers need to go and actually locate a product, they walk up to a kiosk, they key in a particular part number, and it will show them where that particular part number. They can search it by part number, they can search it by travel ticket. If they've been told, okay, we need this group of travel tickets, they can look it up by that group of travel tickets, and then it will show them where the product's located on the floor if it's not in our automated racks. Again, this was always designed to be a complement to our automated storage system for when we had production overflow that flowed outside of the storage in the racks.
So this is literally you type in the travel ticket number to identify the batch that's you're trying to locate, and then what do you see on it? You're at a display screen at a kiosk, and you see a map. Or?
You will see a map of the plant floor, and you also see a blue dot. Or if it's a single product you're looking for, you will see a single blue dot on the floor if it's located within our facility. If you're looking for a particular part number, you will see however many pallets of that particular part number are located within the facility and exactly where they are within the facility. So we've had examples of where product was miscounted at one of our next phases of the process, and they went back to the first phase and said, hey, you didn't send me over my 20 pallets, and they pulled it up on the system, and he was able to look and say, oh, nope, here's where all the 20 pallets are, let's go look and see if we can find them, and go together and say, yep, here they are. They're all sitting where the system reported them to be. And with anything else, I mean, you're always going to have dynamics and changes in the environment or interfering. One thing in the manufacturing world we have to deal with, and I know we're going to have to contend with it in the future, is they're going to make a change or move a piece of equipment or machinery, and all of a sudden we're going to have a locator that's going to have to be relocated to a different place, and we'll have to recalibrate it. But again, we deal with that with the dynamics on anything within the manufacturing facility, whether it be wireless or whether it be the BLE technology.
Yeah, I think you've described these interactions. You have different team leaders, and they might have a different view of what reality is. What a product? How many of this product went from me to you? And now you have a system of record. Seems like it potentially makes for a more harmonious environment.
Oh, it absolutely makes for a more harmonious environment, and it takes the speculation out of it. It's not let's see if we can locate these. We don't know where they are. We know that, I finished them and I shipped them over to you. We need to find these. It takes it out, and you can have instantaneous answers. Now, instead of going and spending time looking for the product, you go to a system and can pull up and actually see, okay, where is the product? And sometimes it's as simple as a count. You requested 20, I shipped you over 20. Or you requested 20, I shipped you over 19. Well, where's the missing one? Oh, look, what's this one hanging out over here where it shouldn't be? Let's go see. Oh, here it is. It's taking the time frame from searching for something to now definitively knowing where something is.
Very good. And so if you were to summarize the business benefits of this, if you kind of... I'm sure I know that there was a very analytical ROI that was calculated beforehand, but we don't need to go into the numbers. But basically, how do you justify something like this from a business perspective?
It's multi-tiered. I mean, one, you have not only the amount of time sent to go look for a particular pallet, which obviously time equates to money in any industry, but I think you also have less finger pointing. It's more of a harmonious system, because now we have real-time analytics telling me where my product is. Well, when the person came and said, hey, you didn't deliver me my I can't find all 20 of my pallets, next time, because again, we're in the first months of getting this system off the ground, next time he's going to go to that system and look for those 20 pallets first before he goes back and going back to the previous process and say, hey, you didn't do this. He's now going to go look and say, oh, look, now I can find these. So I think it leads to more harmonious teams. It also leads for better quality throughout the facility and true accountability of the product throughout the manufacturing process. So we know exactly where it is. Is it where it's supposed to be? And again, this is where analytics are going to tie into play of, is it where it's supposed to be? Also part of our process, once it passes a certain point, it's never to go back over the line. So do we start looking at analytics? Is there a risk of it going back over the line? If there is, can we give real-time feed to somebody who maybe is moving the product and say, hey, this product was already fired. It should not be going here. It needs to move to the next phase of the process. So it not only improves the team dynamics, but it also gets everybody working together and ultimately produces a better quality product better quality processes within the facility to create a better quality product for our customer.
And what kind of, how long does it take for a system like this to pay for itself?
Ultimately, we look at it, I mean, I think every company's got a different ORI. I mean, I think initial our analysis was we were hoping for payback within 2 years. I think if you look 2, 3, 4, whatever it is for you. But the dynamics, not only from a financial direct payback, but also from a team dynamics payback, I think are tremendous in a comfort level within the system. Once the business sees the value in the system, then it truly comes down to, it's like any technology. Well, what if it was no longer there? If I turn off the system, how would it change your business now that you know that it's here? Before you had it, you don't know what you don't know. Once you have it, and then you have to give it up, ask anyone, give up your cell phone for a day. How does your dynamics change? Give up your cell phone for an hour. How do your dynamics change? How do your dynamics change and you're in the business world and you don't have email for 15 minutes, or you don't have your cell phone for 15 minutes, or a network system goes down and you can't track production, or you can't track sales figures? That wasn't a question 20, 30 years ago because it didn't exist. Now that it's here, how do you live without it? And I think that's really one of the dynamics with the system, is you don't know going into it what it can do. And we are just scratching the surface of what the potential of this can do within our facility, because again, it's location, location, location. You know, we have evaluated looking at it from a, what about an emergency evacuation? How can we guarantee everybody's evacuated from our facility? Is there a way for us to show, as just we show dots moving with pallets moving on the floor, can we show dots of everybody evacuating the facility? Is that something that we need to, what is the value added to the company of that when I can guarantee everybody is out of my facility? It depends on what line of business you're in. If you're working in dangerous areas, or you may have dangerous chemicals, again, this doesn't apply as much to our industry, but in general industry standings, do you want to know when somebody's in a particular room? Do you want to know when they've been evacuated from that room? Do you want to know, can we tie those in? So with the systems and analytics, there's so much more you can do with this technology.
Very good. Well, Bob, thanks very much for spending some time sharing this. Congratulations to you. Congratulations to NGK. I really think this is the future of manufacturing, and it's generous of you to share your insights.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, did you have a chance to think about the songs that you want to take on your trip to Mars?
I did, actually. The first one, Billy Joel, It's Still Rock and Roll to Me.
Classic.
It's a classic, but it's also our industry, if we think about it. From a technology perspective, as much as technology's changed over the years, has it really changed a lot? It still has a common goal. And once it does, the languages change, the development changes, the programming changes, all that changes, but is it still rock and roll to us? It applies to the industry. Plus it is just one of those songs.
Excellent.
Every time it comes on the radio, you got to turn it up.
All right.
Guns N' Roses, Sweet Child of Mine. That just brings back one of those memories from teenage years through adulthood and everything. It's just one of those reminiscent good time rock and roll songs. And then probably anything by Queen. You got to have something Queen on for a long. Bohemian Rhapsody.
Bohemian Rhapsody. I think that would do.
That's definitely one of those ones up there. There's any other ones out there. There's numerous ones by Queen. You can pick any one of those songs. Probably it'd be great for a journey. So,
love it. Great choices. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.